Hello, and welcome back to our weekly Sunday school lesson. I am Elder Latanya Milliken of the All Nations Church in Oakland, California. My pastor is Bishop Terrence L. Milliken, and this is lesson 2 in our fall quarter. The date of our lesson is September the 10th, 2023. Can you believe it? It's already September. It's already the 10th of September. This year is going by so fast. Well, this week we are highlighting we're still in the book of Joshua. Last week we were in the first chapter. This week we're in the second chapter. So if you have your favorite translations, we are going to be reading. Go ahead and get them. Not right now. I'm going to set the lesson up first. But it's Joshua, the second chapter, the 3rd through the 9th verse. We're going to stop there, hop over to the 15th and the 16th. Pause right there and then make way to the 22nd through the 24th. So if you've read the whole second chapter of, which I strongly encourage, of Joshua, then you're prepared for our lesson. And so our subject today is Rahab and the Spies. Rahab and the Spies. But before we get there, oh my God, I have to give you a shout out. So if you're celebrating a birthday, anniversary, engagement, whatever you're celebrating, if you bought a new car, new house, whatever you're celebrating, God's blessings in your life, God's protection and his favor in your life. I celebrated a work anniversary on September the 4th. I celebrated 39 years with JP Morgan Chase. What a blessing. I'm starting my 40th year. Oh my God. It's just a blessing. I'm grateful. I'm at a place of gratitude for all God has done for me, for the years of service, for my family, for my friends, for my good health, for all that he has done for me. I am just so grateful for my kids, for my grandkids. Oh my God, I have so much to thank God for, and I just thank him for yet another year being allowed, having the privilege to help others in the community. It is a blessing, and I am so grateful for that. So happy anniversary to me. Happy anniversary to me. And thank you for all my work friends and work family who helped me along this journey. It's just been amazing. Thank you. Now, let's get to our wonderful Sunday school lesson. Last week, we talked about the children of Israel. They are now at the promised land. Yay, they're at the promised land. God had promised them, oh my God, way back with the father Abraham, that he was going to give them this land. It was going to be a huge land. It was going to be a great land. And first time they got there, they choked. And so that they wander in the wilderness for 40 years, but now they're there again. And so God he's wanting. Last week, he shared with us last week how he wanted to bless them, but there were some expectations, right? So they had to go into the land, and they had to wipe out all of the inhabitants of the land. And so one point that I didn't get to last week is that, why would God kick people off their land? And why would God encourage war, right? So these people were living there. But one thing about the Canaan land, and if you've been on this journey with me before, if you've been on this journey with me, we've studied about the children of Israel before, and even when they disobeyed, God would judge them and they would receive punishment. And so it was this time that the Canaanites, this is the land, the Canaanites, they were going, and the people and the inhabitants were receiving judgment from the Lord. They had an opportunity to cease from their sins, but they did not. And so the many sins were incest, adultery, child sacrifice, homosexuality, bestiality. And so God had reached his limit of mercy with them. And so it was time for his judgment. And so this was a part of his judgment. And so don't feel bad about the inhabitants, okay? And so the children of Israel now are getting ready to experience this huge change, right? They have been wandering in the wilderness, camping, and now they're getting ready to settle into a land. But again, they had to move some folk out the way right? And so Joshua, we know, we've learned that Moses had died, and Joshua was the new assistant, and Joshua is sending some spies out. And this is how we begin our this week's lesson. We're going to explore how the Lord protects his people, right? And he's got this plan. Listen, God has a plan for your life. I believe that. I believe God has a plan for everyone's life. It's already mapped out. You just have to follow it. He's not going to always tell you all the details, but it's mapped out for you. Just walk in your calling, and he will protect you. And we're going to watch, because I'm going to pause and help you see, because I love to connect the dots, help you to see what I'm trying to, not me, but I want to help you see how the Lord protects these two spies that Joshua sends out, because he was the assistant of Moses, and he learned from Moses, because again, they had sent out 12 spies, and they saw the land, and they said, oh no, it's giants on that land. Oh my God, we are like grasshoppers. We can't do this. And because of their lack of faith, they had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. And so we're back here again. Now Joshua sent out 2 spies this time over across the river Jordan and to the city called Jericho. And Jericho is a wall city. We sing about Jericho. We read about Jericho. We teach about Jericho. It's a wall city, and it's about 13 feet high. And on the wall, along the wall, is a tower that's about 28 feet tall. And then there's this gate that they can go in and out. And so this is, and the wall is to protect, the wall is to protect them, right? And to protect their water. And so we're sending out these 2 spies to the land, and they go through the gate, and they end up they're directed to Rahab's house, and Rahab is a harlot. So now, first one, they're directed to Rahab's house, and we're going to see why. We're going to see how God set this thing up for their protection. All right. And for them to learn what they need to learn in order to go back and give a good report. And so if you have your favorite translations, let's go ahead and get reading again. Let's go ahead. I'm going to read from the Way. We're going to read Joshua, the second chapter, the second chapter, beginning at the 3rd verse. Okay. Again, we've set it up. 2 men, they went out to spy. They end up in the house of Rehab, who is a prostitute, and they stay the night there. But someone in Jericho saw those 2 men and realized they were Israelites and informed the king. All right. Verse 3, let's read. So the king of Jericho sent orders to Rehab, bring out the men who have come into your house, for they have come here to spy out the whole land. Rahab had hidden the 2 men, but she replied, yes, the men were here earlier, but I don't know where they went from here. They left the town at dusk as the gates were about to close. I don't know where they went. If you hurry, you can probably catch up with them. Actually, verse 6, she had taken them up to the roof and hid them beneath bundles of flax she had laid out. So the king's men went looking for the spies along the road leading to the shallow crossings of the Jordan River. And as soon as the king's men had left, the gate of Jericho was shut. Before the spies went to sleep that night, Rahab went up to the roof to talk with them. I know the Lord has given you this land, she told them. We are afraid of you. Everyone in the land is living in terror. So now let's hop over to, I was going to keep reading, but let's hop over to the 15th verse. Then Rahab's house was built into the town wall. She let them down by a rope through the window, escape into the hill country she told them, hide there for 3 days from the men searching for you. Then when they have returned, you can go your way. Now we're going to go down to the 22nd. Skip all the way down. The spies went up into the hill country and stayed there 3 days. The men were chasing them, searched everywhere along the road, but they finally returned without success. Then the 2 spies came down from the hill country, crossed the Jordan River, and reported to Joshua that all that had happened to them. This is what they reported. The Lord has given us the land. They replied, for all the people in the land are terrified of us. This is a great story. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, let's unpack this lesson, right? All right, so you've got the 2 spies, and they cross over, and they go through the gate, right? And they go to not Rachel. Good Lord, that's another story. Rahab's house, and Rehab is a harlot. And so they were led to Rahab's house. Rahab's house was strategically placed in the wall of the city, all right? And when they got there, she hid them. And the king's men, you heard the story, you read the story. The king somehow got word of it. He was advised, and he sent men to come and take them in. And so you heard what she said. She says, well, yeah, they came here. They was here. But I don't know where they came from. I don't know where they went, but they left, going out the gate at dusk. And so if you go follow them, you'll be able to catch them. So why don't you go ahead and follow them? So she waited some time, and then so she went up, and the men were on the roof. She had hid them. They grew flack, and they would soak the flack in water, and then they would put them on the roof to lay out to dry. And so they were hid under there, and they were getting ready to go to sleep. And so she went and she talked to them. And now, before we get there, let me just talk a little bit about Rehab. So I want to make sure I remember. So Rehab is having a conversation with the men on top of the roof. And so point 1, the Lord lead them to Rehab. Rehab hides them in her house. Rahab's house is strategically placed for a way of escape. Rehab is mentioned in the Faith Hall of Fame. What is the Faith Hall of Fame? So in Hebrews 11, you have all of these people that were in the Old Testament that were listed as people of faith. And they're men, but there's only 2 women. And one woman is Sarah, which was Abraham's wife. And then you have Rehab. Rehab was a harlot. And so we learn that it doesn't matter your station in life. It does not matter your profession in life. If you've got faith, that's what God honors. What a world of difference from the 2 women. But let's talk more about Rehab. Rehab had heard the story. She had not learned anything from Moses. She had never met Moses. She had never been on the journey with the children of Israel to see the miracles. But she had heard the victorious conquest that the children of Israel had. That she had heard what God had done for the children of Israel on their journeys. And because she had heard, she believed, and she could see and recognize the disparity between the God of Israel and her God and the people they serve. And so she realized that the God of the children of Israel was supreme, and she called him Yahweh. And without any encouragement, without any support, without any knowledge from her world or from Israel, she hid the spies. She had this understanding. She claimed this covenant God. And so one thing about faith is in the heart. God looks at the heart. He don't look at anything else. It don't matter how much money you have. I don't care how good you look, how muscular you are, how pretty and long your eyelashes is, how luxurious your hair is. Doesn't matter. Faith comes from the heart, which is where God looks for. And so God had divinely sent out the two spies, strategically led them, we're talking about God's protection, to Rahab's house. Her house was strategically placed on the hill so that they can have an escape. And then they come into the home of someone who understands what's going to happen and has faith. And so as a result of Rahab's faith, God honors her. Her name is listed in the Hall of Faith. Not only that, her offspring is Boaz. She is in the lineage of Jesus Christ. We're talking about a prostitute, a low level, a despised occupation. But she had faith. Look what faith can do for you. And so she was in Jesus's lineage. And what do you think about that? What are your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts about what faith can do for you? What are your thoughts about this story so far? How God strategically is guiding these two spies. This is not nothing new. This is what he had done for the children of Israel before. And so she hit him on the roof. Back to our story. Now she's having this conversation with them. And she tells them, I know the Lord is your God is going to give you this city. We're all terrified. We're all fainting. We're afraid of what's going to happen. And so this message, the message that Rahab is giving to the spies, is what they need to hear. So they get to the right place. They get to the right person. They get the right message. And then she tells them, the soldiers are here. They're looking for you. You got to go. She said, but before you go, here's another statement of faith. When you take the city, because I know God is going to be with you to take the city, because of what I've heard and now I believe, she said, I want you to spare my mother and my father and my sisters and my brothers and their families. And they said, we pledge our lives to spare you. And then she let them down by a rope outside of the wall of the city, because again, her house was right on the wall. So she let them down. She says, now go into the hill country. Stay there 3 days until the men stop looking for you. And they obeyed. They went, because they probably would have went straight back to the River Jordan to go across. But they went into the hills for 3 days, and that's where they stayed. And they were able to go after the day the soldiers came back. They were able to escape, and they went across the Jordan. See, back to Rahab stood for the unseen against the seen. I'll say that again. Rahab, this is faith. This is faith. I want you to get that. This is faith. Rahab stood for the unseen. She had never seen God. But she stood with what she hadn't seen. And she stood against what she did see. Because faith is the evidence of things hoped for. No, faith is, oh God, I can't believe I can't remember. Faith is the substance. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So even though you don't see it, you believe that it's there. So she put her life on the line. She put her life and her family in danger. She stood all by herself in this. And so she is a woman of faith. And so they leave, and they're able to go back and to give a good report. Don't look down on people, because God looks at the heart. Don't judge people. Don't look down on people because their faith may be greater than your faith. And one thing about faith is you don't need a lot of it. You just need a little bit of faith. Just a little bit of faith is what you need. And so if we work on our faith, and faith comes by hearing the word, faith comes by studying Sunday school, faith comes by staying in the scriptures and learning, and faith, and only faith is what pleases God. And this woman who heard, believed, and the children of Israel were with God and still didn't believe. Rehab. And so at the end of the story, they were able to give a good report. We went over, this is what happened. We met Rehab and the soldiers came, and this is what we learned. We learned that the people are afraid of us, for God has given us the land. He has given us the land. This good report, these two spies brought back a good report. And so we see this as we wrap this lesson up, because I'm about to run out of time. As we wrap this lesson up, we see how God strategically got them in to spy the land, got what the news they needed to, and they were able to leave with their lives. Poor king, the poor king. He didn't get what he wanted. The fact of the lesson is to show how Rehab was used by God to protect the spies Joshua was sent to spy out the land. The principle is to show that God has all kinds of resources to protect his people, to teach that when we know that God is with us to protect us at all times, we have nothing to fear. In our lesson next week, we will move from God's protection to see how he is truly victorious and a triumphant God. And so next week, and I'll put it in the comments what next week's lesson will be. We will be in, I knew it. We're going to talk about the fall of Jericho, the walls of Jericho. I'm sure you remember that story from Vacation Bible School and Sunday School, the fall of Jericho, right? All right, so beautiful lesson today. We learned about Rehab and her faith, and we learned about how God protects his people. Share the lesson, like and subscribe. Invite others to subscribe. It's all about the word of God, and faith comes by hearing the word of God. I hope you enjoyed our lesson. I think that's all I have in my notes. God has given us the land, courage, and being strong. God bless you. I love you. Until next week.